Yeah, your question's got marked as my question.
So I'm you and you're me.
I think so.
Okay.
I think we got it switched.
This is a nightmare for me. I have to become,
Well, this is what it said in the email you got.
okay,
Not this. This is,
right.
I had 2 and 7 in the,
To be honest, I don't know what was sent. I just gave Eric the ones he asked for. Which, I mean. Placement. I made some edits, so I didn't want to change it up.
yeah, no. I don't even know where Brad Underwood is from or how old he is.
Well, no, do not change that. Heck, no. Yeah. I did our girlfriend.
Oh, he's a little older than I am. He's 61. What? Me?
Yeah, your cousin.
Yeah, I know. Brad and Carrie and I need to get together.
Sure they'll meet you at Jim Dandy. Okay. Good evening. We'd like to welcome you tonight to our Tipton Community School Corporation School Board interviews. Tonight we'll be filling a vacant seat. Tonight we will begin with an interview with Brandon Cloud. If you'd be willing to come forward to our table up here. How are you? Good, thank you so much for applying, for being here tonight. So help yourself to that water if you need it. There's a list of the questions in front of you that we'll be asking you. The names might be mixed up a little, but that doesn't feel necessary. That probably won't matter to you. So I know that in your application you told us a little bit about yourself, but would you be willing just to share a little bit about yourself and why you'd like to be on the school board?
Yeah, sure. So let's see. I've been born and raised in Tipton County, so I'm fourth generation. Been here my entire life, and married to Carrie Cloud. She's also from Tipton County, so we've both been here, like I say, our entire life. We have 3 daughters. I've got one junior at Texas A&M, a junior here at Tipton High School, and then a 9th grader here at Tipton High School as well. So a little bit about me. Let me see. I graduated from high school and immediately went to IU right after that and completed a teacher education program. Became a teacher, taught for many years. In that time, went back and got my master's degree in school counseling. Was a school counselor, student services director, a couple different roles under that degree for many years, and then went back and got my additional degree to be a school administrator. I've served as a building level and district level administrator for a couple different school corporations. This is my 26th year in public education overall. So a lot of years in education. I think in those years, I've coached half dozen different sports, different ages. So really involved in school. That's pretty much been my only professional career since high school. So a little bit about why I want to be on the school board. It's an honor to be in that role. I think that Tipton Schools has got an awful lot of excitement right now. And to be honest with you, I want to be a part of that. I've just seen a lot of great things happening here. And with my own kids being here, I can definitely testify that it's an amazing place. So selfishly, I want to be a part of the excitement.
Thank you.
What aspects of your education and experience do you think would be most helpful in the position of being a school board member?
Well, I would say probably the last 5, maybe 8 years as a district level administrator, I have been a part of teacher contract negotiations. I've been involved in hiring superintendents, hiring teachers, building level administrators. The last few major projects have been involved with school budgeting, launching CTE programs, and partnering with outside different corporations and secondary institutions like colleges and such. There's an awful lot of experience in that. that I think would be beneficial for a school board member.
As the newest member, Tammy Noble Brown.
Tammy?
My question is, what is the single best thing you know about our schools?
The single best thing. Wow. I believe, boy, there's a lot of great things. The single best thing is probably the sense of community that's been established here. I think the teachers do an amazing job, as well as the administrators pouring into our kids. And those relationships are valuable, incredibly valuable. You would be hard pressed to find somebody that went to this school, regardless of their age, that didn't have some sort of connection to a teacher, to a staff member in some capacity. That sense of community is something, believe you me, that big schools are trying to accomplish, and Tipton has figured out how to do that. So that probably holds the pole position, as, to me anyway, is one of the most important things here.
What do you believe our schools should be accomplishing?
All right. Right now, I think in public education in general, a decline in student enrollment is probably going to surface to the top of most districts. It's going to impact a lot of things. Primarily, I think we all go directly to dollars, but the loss in ADM is one thing, but the loss in students in our community is another. There's two very tangible things that we can attribute to that. And I've got some reports here I kind of want to share with you. Don't mind, I can hand these out to you. So I had a feeling that you was going to ask a question similar to this. This is kind of the data behind the answer to my question. If you take a look at this, this is a settlement of students. This was back from your February ADM count. And one of the things that I think that really sticks out to me is there's about 303 students that claim settlement in the Tipton Community School District that do not attend public school here. I think that's a challenge and something worth looking into. It is when there are a grand total of about 1,200, maybe 1,250 students that attend here, and 300 or so live in these boundaries but don't attend this school. That to me stands out as a possible challenge.
Thank you.
So obviously building on that, right, and your answer in your application, what area do you see in our school system you'd like to see improved? And feel free to,
Yeah,
you kind of answered that in the app.
right. Yeah, I mean, I would just want to reiterate that it kind of also goes back to that sense of community answer that I gave you earlier. It's you know, the deeper below the, okay, this is costing the district an ADM dollars, the next level right below that is there's 300 or so kids that aren't connected to that sense of community that I highlighted as a strength. That would probably be something worth exploring. You know, that's kind of a missing piece that they might very well have that they're not gonna get unless they're here. So yeah, I just would want to go back to that as being a possibility.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. What do you believe is the role of the board, and what is the role of the superintendent?
I think the role of the board is, I mean, there's the standard answer, you know, that they're going to oversee policy and that they're going to hire and evaluate the superintendent. That's the textbook answer. I think that in addition to that, the school board also is embedded in the community. They're going to be that face. They're going to be that voice. They're just another agent of the institution that helps to promote what's going on here. And they also really need to be supportive of the teachers in all capacities, the administrators, as well as the superintendent. I mean, it's kind of one big family, and a school board member is part of that. Oh, the role of superintendent, was that your second
Yes,
part?
thank you.
Okay. Yeah, the role of superintendent is to oversee and manage the entire district and reports to the board.
So I pulled my next question from your survey, and you've already addressed it twice. So switch gears a little bit, but we're all aware of the decline in enrollment.
Mhm.
A lot of small school districts are in trouble, like you said, not just the money, but with those kids. How would you, as a board member, have any influence on enrollment at the school?
Good question. Yeah, there's the why that goes behind that data. And I think personally, what I would like to do would be to explore the reasons behind why those families chose to make a other decision other than public education. You know, I got to assume, and I think that there's a fair amount of correctness to it, when a family sits around and makes a decision to not enroll their student in the local district, that's probably a really hard conversation and probably filled with a lot of emotion. You know, I think so many times in the roles that the board is in, a lot of times it goes right back to the loss in funding. But that emotional decision should be explored. I personally think that there could be a lot of knowledge gained into why those decisions are being made in those families. You know, I've talked to a lot of families in this community about why they have chosen to not be a part of the public schools. And it's very personal from family to family. And there's a large number of kids in this community who are homeschooled. And I don't know, and it's too arrogant to assume that this answer applies to all of them. But I do believe that there are a certain number of them that are making that decision because of a religious education component. As of this past July, the State House passed a law. It's House Bill 1187, if I'm not mistaken. And basically it connected or bridged that divide that we've kind of always had. And what it did is it's allowing public schools now up to 2 hours per week to excuse students for religious education. There's all kinds of fine print to it. So don't just take that as, okay, now public schools are going to be responsible for religious education. But it changed the wording from a may to, or from a shall to a may. So what that did is that allowed superintendents and administrators to excuse students for that amount of time to get religious education. They can leave the school grounds. And like I say, there's a lot of fine print to that. But it almost would be worth exploring in that 300 or so kid group. If that's why they're leaving, maybe you can kind of have your cake and eat it too. Maybe they want to be a part of the public school system because there's so much here between the athletics and the dual credit courses and the CTE programming and that awesome experience that they get. You know, I really do believe that they want to be a part of the school for the most part. It's just that may be the reason they chose not to. So to answer your question, it would be to explore the reasons with those families as to why.
How do you respond to criticism?
Well, I'm open to it. To be honest with you, I think we all can learn from criticism, especially if you take it and evaluate it. If it's meaningful to you, you're going to listen to it, evaluate it, and hopefully improve from it.
Thank you.
Obviously, my question's on confidentiality. How do you maintain confidentiality? The wife that works in the district, et cetera, and how do you handle that in your current role, not sharing that information as well?
Right. Yeah. I mean, when you work with people's children, confidentiality is paramount. I've been doing it for 26 years. It's what's work is work, and it needs to stay that way. Yeah, Carrie and I mean, we are happily married, but we do draw the line at, okay, you just shop ends at the end of the school day, you know, for that reason.
Very good. Thanks, Brian.
Initially, the necessary time to become familiar with school board operations and responsibilities could require an additional plus 50 hours of training in the first year. In addition, we highly value professional development at our yearly school board conference and training. Does your schedule allow time for you to be able to commit that time?
Yeah, without a doubt. Before I even applied for this position, I had conversation with the team of administrators that I work with in the school district that I'm employed at. I wanted to get their support before I even took this step, knowing that it takes that kind of time. And I do have their support and am able to dedicate the time that's needed.
Great. That's the end of our questions for you. Do you have any questions for us?
No, I think I'm all good.
You're good. Okay. At this time, then, we'll kind of work on this the next couple of days. You should hear something from one of us by Thursday. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Brandon.
And you don't have to stay, you're welcome to, but it's up to you. You want to come up? Thank you, Kim. How are you? Thank you. All right, well, welcome, and thank you for applying. All right, so we have just a few questions for you, obviously, as you've just heard. So why don't you start with just telling us a little about yourself and why you would like to be on the school board?
Sure. My name is Kimberly Faig. I am recently married to my husband Clay. Together we have 4 children, all within some area within the school corporation. Our youngest son Alex is a 6th grader at TMS. He's a high ability student. He plays football, basketball, and he will run track in the spring. My youngest daughter Madison is an 8th grader, also at TMS. She utilizes the special education services. She is the sole diver on the TMS swimming and diving team for 3 years in a row. She is also the founder of the TMS Blue Crew. She's very proud of that, so am I. Our oldest son, Parker, is a senior this year. He is active on the wrestling team, the baseball team, and he is the driver of our go-kart team. He plans to attend Vincent's in the fall for welding.
Oh,
We
wait,
do.
yes, I do. Yes, I do. I heard that differently.
We
in my head.
do.
Yes, I do. Yep, go ahead.
So our oldest daughter, Macy, she graduated in 2022 from THS. She went on to cosmetology school and is a hairstylist here in town. Professionally, I'm a massage therapist. I opened my own massage therapy practice here in Tipton about 3 years ago. And that has given me the opportunity to develop close relationships with members of the community within building relationships with my clients, and then also through like different networking events through the Chamber of Commerce and the Tipton Main Street Association, which I am involved with in both of those entities. Outside of these things, I am the team mom for just about every program that our school offers. I'm the classroom mom for every classroom my students have been in. And I've also always been the chaperone for the field trips, the guests every year that come into the classrooms, et cetera, et cetera. So in all of my free time, I enjoy reading, cooking, and my husband and I travel quite a bit. So I would love to be a member of the school board because I feel like I bring a very diverse perspective from a parent perspective with a very diverse range of learners and a very diverse of interests, very diverse interests. So I feel like I bring all of that to the table, a very balanced perspective. I've been the low-income kid receiving free introduced lunches, and I've also been the parent who's been blessed enough to be able to contribute to the negative lunch balance fund. I represent the athletes. I represent the music kids. I represent the art kids. I represent pretty much in one capacity or another every single student who attends this school.
Sounds like it. All right, thank you.
So what aspects of your education or experience do you feel would be especially helpful to being a member of the board?
Sure. I believe it comes back to the community, which I know Brandon touched on quite a bit. I think that I have a very strong base of community and people who trust me. Swimming practice is letting out right now, and you could go ask any of the swimmers on their way out, and they're going to say that Madison's mom sends a snack to practice for everyone every single day. And if you go to, the 6th grade basketball practice is starting in 10 minutes, and every parent there will tell you, at least 20 of the 24 would probably tell you that Alex's mom is always good for a ride and to run through a drive-through if need be. If you go to the baseball field, the high school baseball field, in the spring, they will tell you that Parker's mom is probably in the concession stand or working the booth or doing something of some capacity. I feel like I built a lot of trust, and I think that is very important. I don't have experience in managing multi-million-dollar budgets, but what I do have is the trust of the community.
Kimberly, what is the single best thing you know about our schools?
I feel like our educators are definitely, I've been in every single classroom at one point or another, I feel like, in these buildings. And you will not find an educator better than what we have here. I just don't believe it's possible. They're very overworked and very underpaid, which I think is, standard across the board in public education, not just us. But I feel like you won't find anyone as dedicated as some of our educators. I mean, you have Scott and Sherry Leffler showing up to sporting events, and you have Jessica Hendricks going out of her way to really be impactful to her students. You have Monica Rich, who still makes my son cry whenever she sees him. I just think we're very blessed to have the very best. Thank you.
What do you believe our schools should be accomplishing?
I think our school should be working together for student success. And I think success looks different for everyone. What success is for my son Alex is going to be very different than what success is for your son Charlie. I think that success is a spectrum and what that means to them. And so I feel like being inclusive within the education to say, maybe this student is not going to go to college, maybe they're going to the trades, maybe they're going into the workforce. I think just accomplishing whatever success looks like for each individual student is what we should be doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So obviously, a lot of good things. What do you see are some things you would, or a thing or some things you'd like to see improved?
Sure. So I was asked and honored to be asked to sit in at the special education audit with Mr. Jaworski back in October. And in this room, there were a lot of conversations that were pretty eye-opening for me as a special education parent. Like one in particular, at one point I had said, I feel like as everyone's throwing out their concerns, I'm like, I feel like there should be a position like created. What would we have to do to create a position that handles this and this and this and this? And I was informed like that position exists, that person is real. And so my question then was, okay, are we not equipped to do the job, or do we not have the resources? Like, why? I've been a special education, my daughter, again, she's in 8th grade. I've been a special education parent since she started. Why don't I know this exists? So it's like, does this person need more resources? And it's the same, not just in that, I'm not calling out anyone in particular, but I feel like it's the same through athletics even. With, again, all the sports that I've been in, we've had, buses that were never scheduled, and us parents had to load kids into our vehicles and transport them to wherever they were going that day. We've had a lot of parent concerns that have gone unaddressed or underaddressed with different coaches who maybe were not properly vetted before they were hired. We've had just schedules being wrong, and it's so it makes me wonder. Like, I don't think that our school corporation would hire anyone who wasn't qualified. So it makes me wonder, are they receiving the resources, the training? Like, what do they need to be successful? Because when they're successful, our students are successful, our athletes are successful, our school district is successful.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Kim, what do you believe is the role of the board and the role of the superintendent?
So I believe that the board establishes the what and the superintendent establishes the how. So we lay the roadmap as the board, and the superintendent implements it, and then we evaluate. So the budgets, the policies, and everything, while our superintendent then would enforce, and then we would come back and evaluate that operation.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in your questionnaire, you mentioned some individuals in certain areas that maybe are not equipped or performing their duties.
Yes.
I was going to ask you for names, but I won't do that.
I would not feel comfortable
No,
providing.
no, I'm just kidding. What I would like to know is how you feel like you could address that as a board member.
I think, again, just establishing the trust. And I don't know as a board member what I personally could do. I was just asked what I feel like the downfall is. So I think if they do need more resources, how can I as a board member find those resources? Is it through a grant? Is it through some sort of furthering education or professional development? Like what can I would seek that out.
How do you respond to criticism?
I feel like criticism is an opportunity for growth. I personally respond very well. If it is constructive criticism, I feel like that's something that is easy to kind of look at and move forward with that in mind. And if it's not so constructive criticism, I try to look a little bit deeper into finding the value of what is being said, because even if someone is saying something hurtful or not quite as constructive, that doesn't mean that they don't have a good and valid point underneath all of that. So I just feel like it is an opportunity to grow and be adaptable and open-minded and move forward with, and not allowing that to, hinder your confidence, but move forward with all of these things in mind and how to be a better person or a better decision maker. Thank you. Thank you.
Obviously, we deal with a lot of confidential information, personnel, budget, that type of thing. Can you give me your thoughts on how you would maintain confidentiality as integrated in the community as you are?
Yes, so I have to maintain confidentiality every single day within my job. I don't have to adhere to HIPAA standards, but there are some privacy standards that I do have to abide by. Also, in addition to what I'm legally obligated to keep confidential, there are a lot of people, I don't know if you've ever received a massage, but in that moment, you can become very vulnerable and people will share things a lot of times that I don't feel qualified to hear, or things that I'm uncomfortable hearing. And I still would never turn around to my next client and be like, oh my goodness, did you hear that this person, this and this, or this person is struggling within their marriage? There are so many things that I have to keep confidential every single day. So I would not struggle with that at all.
I have not had a massage, but probably will not have one now if that's the outcome. So, well, thank you for that. That was worth my time tonight.
You get relaxed, spilling things.
Allison,
You don't know what you're
giving
missing.
away my PIN number.
Thank you.
Okay. Glad I avoided that. So,
No, not every time, but people do become, it's not very often that I feel like you're alone, in a dark room with no distractions. There's no phone, there's no TV, there's no, hey dad, I need this. Hey dad, can you get me a snack? It is just, you're one-on-one and people say things sometimes. And I'm like, where did that come from?
thank you very much for
Thank you.
your answer.
Thank you.
Kimberly, initially, the necessary time to become familiar with the school board operations and responsibilities could require an additional 50-plus hours of training in the first year. In addition, we highly value professional development at our yearly school board conference and training. Does your schedule allow time for you to be able to commit that time?
Yes, it does. My schedule is 100% what I make it, so I can make it whatever is accommodating.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, what questions do you have for us?
So I know that I answered some questions and I will speak fast or in circles. So were there any questions that someone else asked or that any of you would like further clarification on that I could help you understand, or how I may be a better fit? Did anybody have? No?
I did not.
No, I think you did a nice job.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. So you'll probably hear back from one of us by Thursday.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. And you're welcome to stay, but you don't have to.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. Andrea, just a minute there. Probably too long. All right, Matt, are you ready? How are you?
Good, how are you guys?
Good. Have a nice Thanksgiving.
It wasn't long enough.
Yeah.
Then it got cold. So
And then,
here we are.
and here we are at Monday, right?
Yeah.
Right. Well, thank you so much for your application and your time to be here tonight. Would you be willing to tell us a little bit about yourself and why you would like to be on the school board?
Yeah, I think I know most everybody except for Mr. Underwood. I know the rest of the nobles, but I haven't never met Tammy, so nice to meet you guys. My name is Matt Higginbotham. I've been a resident of Tipton County since 2005. Chased my wife, who's a school teacher here. We met in 2002. I bought a house in 2005 in Tipton County. We were married in 2006. And we've been here ever since. We have 4 kids, a sophomore, 8th grader, sixth grader and second grader. If you met my second grader, I apologize. He's the baby, so, you know, he's something. I originally, to go back, I've always had a history of attendance and support of the board or interest in the school board. I think it was almost 16 years ago. There was at that time, there was a talks of having to rip some teachers, and came out and thought that was, not the best for the situation, considering I lived in the community and already had one small kid and assumed I was gonna have more. I was approached about running actually for the seat, in 2019, so that was in 2016 or 17, so I started attending board meetings pretty regularly. Ran against Amber in 2019, and then ended up on the 4-H council in 2020. So you haven't seen me on Tuesday nights because apparently in Tipton we do everything on Tuesday nights, the second Tuesday of the month. City meetings, 4-H council, and school board. So I've always found it, you know, I look at the kids in our community are really our biggest asset, and how we handle, how we manage, and what we provide and do for them is what will determine the future of our community. So I coach a lot of sports. My wife, she was a kindergarten teacher here. Now she's a reading specialist. She taught at Anderson. For her first teaching job was Anderson Elementary. So I spent a lot of time in Anderson, helping her. And really that changes your perspective of the educational system. And what those kindergartners were a tad bit different than Tipton 6-year-olds. But at the root of it, they were still 6-year-old kids. And so a lot of field trips and a lot of good times there. She got let go there. She taught a couple other schools. We always wanted our kids to go to the same school she taught at, so schedules were the same. So she's been here, I think, 10 or 11 years. And I've always, you know, I've always felt like it's important to look at the corporation as a broad spectrum. The demographics of the kids today are a lot different than 10 years ago when Ava started kindergarten. I think a lot of the rhetoric around school corporations and public schools is unfair to educators, unfair to the communities, for the challenges that are given to corporations by the state legislature. A lot of the mandates are seemingly not well thought out. They ask schools to do a lot with little. So in my current role, I'm a street commissioner for the city of Carmel. I manage 75 in January, 75 full-time employees, another 30 part-time employees, and about $28 million budget. Lots of big multi-million-dollar projects that give a lot of insight on processes and procedures. But honestly, I think there's a lot of positives here that we're just on the cusp of attaining, and I think, like I said, I've been interested for a long time. So when I found out it was open, I put in.
Thank you.
So what aspect of your experience, professionally or living in town, coaching kids, whatever, do you think would be most helpful as a member of the board?
Realistically, I'm unoffendable. So I think historically, a lot of challenges that previous boards have faced, criticism and things of that nature, is the fact that people typically just want to be heard. I would, to the numbers that Brandon spoke about, a lot of families that left years ago under previous administration felt unheard. So I'm always open to a conversation. if I don't agree, like, I think empathetic ear that is still willing to take, the brunt of that to people, so people feel heard. I think a lot of times that's, in the act, you know, a lot of times, I heard it said, in the absence of the truth grows suspicion, right? So people, and I, you know, I don't have to tell any of you, we've all lived here a long time, so we can be honest with each other. When people don't feel like they are being told the truth, or there is silence, they fill it in with whatever they want to fill it in. And sometimes that is a hindrance on the community, on accomplishments.
Matt, what is the single best thing you know about our schools?
Well, there's a really good reading specialist. You know, I think for me, it always comes back to the kids, and I think we have a very good staff. I think the challenges as a corporation, I've been very supportive of the current administration. I was very unsupportive of the previous administration. And everybody that knows me knows that. I think all of the kids are our biggest asset, and then the staff comes, you know, then the administration. I think it has to be focused in that order, in my opinion, for success.
What do you believe our schools should be accomplishing?
I think it's what you define success as, right? So, there's all kinds of measurements, but the tests, when my wife was a kindergarten teacher, right, she had a lot of special needs kids with IEPs, behavioral issues, other disabilities, learning disabilities. Growth isn't justified by a test. I've seen a lot of those kids do some amazing things that I would have never expected, even just in the year, and then to watch them, and then they come back, and they, you know, all the things. I think there needs to be growth. I think there needs to be a pursuit of excellence. We can get complacent. We think we're doing, you know, we get stuck into a routine of this is how we've always done it. This is what we've always gone to do it. You know, that doesn't necessarily indicate that the way it's always been done is wrong, but that always doesn't make it right either, right? So if you're always trying to pursue excellence across the board in every situation, whether it's arts, academics, athletics, you name it, leadership, if you're pursuing excellence, at least you're shooting for that goal.
So Matt, what's an area you'd like to see improved, and you can carry on from there or pick something else?
Yeah, well, for me, I think, it would be I think we've lost some really good educators, due to circumstance, whether it's benefits, salary, things of that nature, lack of housing in the community. I mean, it's not necessarily the school's issue that we've lost, but I think there has to be some creative thought given to retain high-quality educators. I think I mentioned in my thing, policies and procedures. An example, I was asked to coach middle school football. I did. And I was asked, did you get paid? No. I'm sure they may have, listen, nobody's called me to get my information, so I know I'm not getting a check. Nor have I, you know, I had to do all the prerequisite tests and stuff, right? Nobody checked in. Like, I did it because I was told I needed to, but like nobody followed up to see. So some of those policies and procedures that I think, are challenging because of a lack of resources. So you have to think of creative ways. I think through a lot of the change that I've managed through at work, and the fact that, like, realistically, even though it sounds like they have a lot of people, we're probably about 60% staffed of what we actually do as far as workload. And we've been that way for the 20 years I've been there. So I understand operating lean. So that requires some really defined policies and procedures of how things shake out.
Thank you, Matt.
What do you believe is the role of the board and what is the role of the superintendent?
So, for me, I think the board, I would be there to represent Madison Township, right, my constituents. The board oversees the superintendent. Superintendent's essentially the CEO, right? If you look at it as like big business, he's the CEO. The board's overseeing that role. And then just, I've had some differences with past boards because I felt like there wasn't enough oversight. That doesn't seemingly hasn't been the situation here. But they essentially guide the direction the community wants the corporation to go, and then the superintendent comes and says, hey, this is the plan, this is how we're going to get there. But essentially, the superintendent's your expert in the field. And so if you can't trust your superintendent, then we have bigger issues.
So you mentioned in your questionnaire and in your answer earlier, but I want you to elaborate on staff retention, specifically to good teachers. You have an inside person here in the building. As a board member, what can we do to make sure we keep good teachers?
It's challenging. I'll be honest, I'm shocked that the board has been able to make it this long without a referendum. Some of the numbers aren't new. I remember when Mr. Jaworski came, he sat down with one of his first reports. He read off all these numbers that have been given the board for a long time. I was like, this is the fact, like, this is just where we're at, right? So I think you have to get creative. I think you have to figure out what the needs of those educators are, right? Like outside the box stuff. That could be a challenge, maybe some good negotiation techniques, but most people don't realize teachers either have to burn a full day or a half day, and they don't get a lot of days, right? So, yeah, they get some summer times, but if there's a sickness or an illness or things like that, they don't have a lot of time. So if they need to get to a doctor's appointment and they can't get it after 3:30 or 4 o'clock, now they're burning a half day. So I think there's potential for creative solutions. Pay, the state really, it's challenging, I think. Performance evaluations are challenging, one of my arguments in the past was every teacher was, meets expectations or exceeds expectations, right? But our numbers didn't reflect, like, that's the kind of process we had going on as far as our testing numbers, but yet nobody needs improvement. Like, that's pretty impressive for, what's our total staff of 200 teachers or something like that. So, like, that's impressive if nobody needs improvement. So I think when you build a culture that shows there's an investment, you get buy-in. And then when you have buy-in, it isn't always about the money. It just isn't, right? If they don't look at it as just a means to an end, but it's a culture that I want to be a part of because this is my community. And honestly, that's kept a lot of good teachers here for a long time. Because this is their community, and so they've foregone. My wife's turned down some very good opportunities, and I get it. This is what she loves the community. This is where she's from. This is what she wants to do. So I understand that. I think there's just it's important to build that culture as a board, as a corporation.
Okay, thanks.
How do you respond to criticism?
I'm growing in this. I get, mostly because I've always made it my challenge for a long time. I've taken all the, over 100,000 citizens, lots of, disgruntled phone calls, and I take them all. I try to take them all because I've never thought it was, my secretary's job to be cursed at or yelled at or tolerate that. So I pride myself. I've only had one that I wasn't able to talk off the edge, but I've been told a lot of things. I think, for me, I've always talked a lot about constructive criticism, and I recently heard it re-referenced as developmental opportunities, as opposed to telling somebody I've got some constructive criticism for you, because when people hear criticism right out of the gate, they shut down. So yeah, I don't. I've been told a lot of things over the last 20 years, so it doesn't really. I still sleep pretty well at night.
Right. So obviously, my question's around confidentiality, Matt, and how would you maintain confidentiality in the community based upon the information we're privy to?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's I can't speak to all the things that I don't know, right? So like, but when things are confidential, they're confidential. It's the ultimate. I mean, as a board member, you do what is best for the corporation and the kids. And in that, there comes that confidentiality aspect of it, because it's just, you don't want to put the corporation in a liability situation. And that means you can't communicate things. I digress to the fact that I do ask my wife a lot of educational questions, because I feel like her perspective on the educational process as a whole is very insightful. Because I don't think necessarily all educators look at things the way she does. And so I find it very interesting. But when it comes to confidentiality, I mean, I deal with this every day, right? So the amount of staff I have, I think it is what it is. So.
All right. Thank you.
Matt, initially, the necessary time to become familiar with school board operations and responsibilities could require an additional 50-plus hours of training in the first year. In addition, we highly value professional development at our yearly school board conference and training. Does your schedule allow time for you to be able to commit that time?
Yeah, I've gotten to, I'm at the point where I have the ability to pretty well set my schedule as far as stuff like that. I have a lot of time off anyway, so I'm not naive to the commitment. I take the commitment to a board very seriously. That's why I started going to every board meeting like 3 years before I ran, because I didn't want to be uninformed. And like I said, I feel like I'm in a place where I have the ability now, and so that's not a problem for me.
You mentioned the second Tuesday being a big night, and you were on the fair for
4-H Council.
4-H Council.
4-H
Sorry.
Council meets second Tuesday of every month. School board meets.
Are you on that still?
I'm done in December.
Okay, you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, just to clarify then, if you were selected, you would not be attending the December board meeting?
Oh, I would attend this one, but I
Okay.
won't be at
Okay,
right.
thank you. What questions do you have for us?
I don't think I have any. What do you guys feel is the most pressing issue facing the corporation?
Oh, man. Go ahead, anybody? Or we can,
I mean, you don't have to answer. I'm just saying, because honestly, I haven't been able to, I know there's lots of things. It's all encompassing, right? But
yeah. Does
Yeah,
anybody have
I would say
simplified
the
that?
declining, I mean, we've spoken about this, right? The declining enrollment, the lack of the city and the county to respond to affordable housing, any housing, let's just unaffordable housing. And all of that trickles down to lower ADM, lower operating funds. And that the largest problem that the school corporation has, we literally have very little control over it. So, but we can control some of the fallout of that. I guess I don't know if that's the that helpful or?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's been, I mean, quite honestly, that was kind of the talk of 7, 8 years ago now. I mean, it was still in declining numbers, so.
Yep.
Technology's changed.
Well, thanks for coming in, and
Thank you, Matt.
we'll have
Thank
a response to you by Thursday.
Awesome.
So
Thank you.
at this time, we will go ahead and just close our board meeting for tonight. So thank you so much for attending.